Hi, what's your name?
I'm Andrew Kanak.
Andrew Kanak, right. How'd you go today?
3 and 3.
3 and 3, that's not too bad. What position do you end up in?
21st out of 41.
21st out of 41, so just on the border, halfway. How do you think your deck went today?
When I won, it did really well, but at times I suffered from quite bad hands. That was kind of the main thing that tripped me up today.
Just a little bit of consistency.
Bit of consistency.
Right, so shall I have a look at your deck then?
Alright, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. So look at the monster lineup. 2 Prisma and Stratos. So that's your hero engine.
The hero engine.
Hero engine, your god deck. That's fine. We'll get to a bit more of an explanation about what happens when we get to the spells. Bestiary. That's staple and glads. And we've got 2 Darius. That's again quite staple. 2 Akeste. Again, fairly stable. Hoplomus. Right, how do you think this ran today?
Hoplomus did quite well. If nothing else, I find it's very good almost as a bluff. If the opponent knows I have Hoplomus, the moment I put anything face down, they'll automatically assume it's Hoplomus. And even if it's something weaker like a Secutor, they'll just leave it alone and give me an extra turn.
So it's just more for the double bluff more than anything else?
It's more for the double bluff as anything else, but at the same time, it is very handy.
The fear factor.
Yeah. At the same time, it is very handy when you need a decent defense.
Yeah. 2 Liquarius. Some people would run 3 just purely because it can get over stuff. What do you think about that?
Usually when I'm going for Liquari, it's because I've not really got much else of an option. So I prefer having 2 because it leaves me up with more stuff that actually, can get field control rather than just a beat stick for the sake of a beat stick.
Yeah. 2 Marmalade. That's obviously worked quite well today, is it?
Yeah. The double Milo is ridiculously handy, whether you're running Gazaris, Secutor. There's something very powerful about dropping a pair of Milos on the opponent when you've not been able to kill it through battle.
Yeah. Next on is 2 Retiari. How did that run today?
Quite well. It didn't get as much use as the Milo engine, but again.
Is this one of the things you start to side out depending on what your opponent?
No, I kept the Retiaris in. They were actually pretty handy against a couple of decks, relying on graveyards. All of a sudden you're losing 2 cards a turn, you're not really liking that when you're relying on getting stuff back. Now here's the contentious one.
Right. A lot of people will say, why on earth are you playing this, including me? I don't think it's a very good card, but Andy, why do you think this is a good card?
When it works, Secutor can win games. I mean, I could, the amount of times that I've either drawn it in my opening hand or top decked it when I really didn't need it, I could go on for hours about how useless it can be. But at the same time, there's something really beautiful about drawing into a Secutor, a Test Tiger, and a Wabaku turn 1, and knowing that if your opponent messes up, you're going to be sitting there with a hurt by the end of round 1. So, I like it. I like it enough to keep it in.
It's more of a tech choice than anything else, though.
Yeah, when it works, it's amazing, and it really scares people sometimes, to the point where they'll throw stuff at it just to kill it. In the meantime, I'm going, okay, I've got my Vesti out instead.
Yeah. Next up is the Test Tiger engine. Since you're running Tiger Glads, you're obviously not as reliant on beating down as you are, because you can obviously switch out and get effects a lot quicker. Do you think 3 Test Tigers too much?
No.
Were there moments when you got Test Tigers at horrible moments where you didn't really want it?
Not as such. There was one duel when the only monsters I drew in my opening hand were a pair of Test Tigers, which is kind of worrying. But then the moment you draw your first Glad Beast, you're sitting there going, okay, so that's potentially 3 switch outs in 1 turn, which can really do a lot of damage to your opponent's field. So having more Test Tigers than you need is better than having not enough. So I like having it in 3.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Alright, and now we're on to the spell cards. Book of Moon, staple. Dark Pool, staple. Right. Now we move on to Forbidden Lance. Now, how did these run today? I mean, you only put them in today,
Yes.
but it's a card that you'd have thought for Glads it would be good, purely because you can use it either in an attacking sense or a defensive sense. How would it go for you?
Not necessarily as well as I'd hoped. I found myself using it more to reduce the opponent's attack rather than for the anti-spell trap effect.
That's generally what you'd hope from it. Even if they're attacking you, that's kind of what you hope for.
Yeah, I mean the notable use of it was throwing it against Karakuris in the last round to try and get over their big synchro with the Laquari, to the point where they then solemned it in the face, which went on to win the duel. But I don't know. I'm still, the jury's still out on whether I'm going to keep using them.
Three Proving Grounds, staple. And Heavy Storm, Monster Born, and double MST. No Dark Hole.
I do have a Dark Hole, I showed you a minute ago.
There's a Dark Hole in here. Sorry people, there's a Dark Hole in here. Yeah, there's the Dark Hole, and you didn't put it with the rest of the staples. Yeah, that's the set of staples.
Yeah.
That's much easier when you do it like that. That's fine. Now on to the traps.
I had you worried for a minute.
You did have me worried there. It's just like you, Andy, to do something like that.
Yeah. I'm doing it alphabetically.
Bottomless, 1 Compulse. How did these run today?
Alright, I'm still happier using the Compulses, because a lot of the meta at the moment seems to be on quite small monsters with important effects. So I've been finding it a lot more useful to just sort of let them hit the field and then bounce them off, make the opponent waste a turn, rather than having a Bottomless face down and going, oh, it's something like 1,000 attack that I can't kill, and being stuck with it.
Would you change the Bottomless for another Compulse then?
I'd probably go back to 2, because that was what I was running before today.
That's what you're running before today. So you'd probably switch to Bottomless out for Compulse?
Yeah, I'd probably stick with 2 Compulse.
And then we've got staples, 3 War Chariot, Solemn Judgment, 2 Warning, and Torrential. That's all fairly staple. Why do you only run 1 Torrential?
Not enough room in the deck.
Just lack of space, really.
Lack of space.
If you could have fit another one in, would you?
Probably not. I don't tend to like cards too much that are destroying my field as much as the opponent, because the general point of the deck is to get control.
Yeah.
And if I'm blowing up my own stuff, then that can be a bit of a fail.
Okay. A couple cards left. Starlight Road. How'd this run today?
Didn't get to activate it once. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of widespread destruction going on in the meta now.
Despite the torrentials?
Despite the torrentials, I don't think I saw a torrential against more than 1 monster the entire day.
Alright.
And no storms. I was the only one running Glad Beasts. So I was getting it out a lot.
At least a little bit of originality then.
Yeah, I was getting it on the field a lot, but then nothing was coming to trip it.
Would you have taken that out, or do you just like the safety net?
I like the safety net, because it depends on the deck.
Yeah.
And finally, double Wabaku.
Double Wabaku. And how'd this run today?
Just as well as always does. Get a Glad Beast on the field, opponent thinks, oh, that's quite small, I'll have that. Wabaku says no, and before your opponent knows it, they're looking at a Gazaris.
Alright, let's move on to your extra deck.
Yes.
Right. Start off with Stardust Dragon. That's for your Starlight Road.
Purely for the Starlight Road, I've got no
Can't get
tuners.
Other ways, no?
No.
So that's just... has to be in there. Chimera Tech Fortress. Says it all. Right, and now we get to a part of the engine that you probably wouldn't expect in here. The Omni Heroes. How did these? Did you get any of these out today?
I didn't, but that's because I had Super Poly in the extra deck. I preferred to side deck. I preferred to leave Super Poly out until I knew what kind of deck I was going to be up against, rather than running it and wasting a card against something like Blackwings or Chaos.
Would you have made Super Poly now that you've seen what you've been up against today?
Probably not. I think I would prefer to keep Super Poly as a side deck card until the Dark one comes out later in the year. Once there's coverage for all attributes in the game, it'll probably go back in as main.
Yep. And Xyz, Leviathan Utopia. How often do you pull these out today?
Not much, but I found a lot.
When you did it come in quite handy?
Utopia came in very handy against Karakuris. Could have helped win the game, but again, the Solomon, the Forbidden Lance, kind of stuffed me over right at the end.
Yeah.
And then the Glad Beasts.
And then we've got the Glad Beast fusions, which are all fairly staple. 2 Esadari, 2 Gizaris, and 2 Herc. Why only 2 Gizaris and 2 Esadari?
Purely because Gizaris, if I'm getting more than 2 Gizaris out in the field at once, my opponent's doing something wrong and I should have won. Esadari, kind of the same. If I'm needing to get more than 2 in the field at once, then I've somehow plussed by an awful lot, which I don't seem to do much by hand size.
Alright. How do you think things went overall today then?
I'm disappointed with the losses. The wins I was very pleased with, but round 1, playing against 6 Samurai, my opponent got both of the big Naturia fusion synchros out turn 1, and I drew nothing but spells and traps, which they just all negate. So a bit of bad luck in hand drawing, and then a couple of just bad luck moments where the opponent was better prepared.
How do you think you could have better prepared for today?
Not really. I was pretty happy with my deck. Like I said, it just more came down to bad luck rather than bad cards or bad play. I did the best with what I had.
Thank you for that, Andrew.
Cheers.